Experts and assumptions. There are really only two genuine experts when it comes to classrooms and education. And of course, you have the academic experts, and we have the principals, and we have the curriculum councils, and we have all the ones who make the decisions. But then we have the real experts, anyone who's actually been in a classroom, and that is the teachers and the kids. And of course, there's all varieties of kids, there's varieties of teachers, everyone's an individual. Teachers, there's millions of them, okay, tens of millions of them. There are good ones, there are bad ones, the same with parents, the same with principals. So what has actually happened over time is people make some assumptions about what actually happens at school. Unfortunately, a lot of promises are made on behalf of teachers, and the teachers can't necessarily deliver. Money spent on public relations, giving the perception that the system is improving. So that includes newsletters and social media, what actually takes place in a classroom and at a school. If you have gone to the trouble of getting a dyslexia diagnosis or an ADHD diagnosis, quite often in Australia we have individual education plans. And even though it might have cost thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, and you've gone to all the experts and spoken to psychologists and all those sorts of things, the reality is that education plan will get put in the system, and you're asked to read it, and then you're asked to acknowledge or sign it, and that might be the end of it for a lot of kids. I'm just speaking from experience in high school, but it can be 3, 4, 5 weeks into the school term, and people will be receiving emails, oh, you haven't acknowledged this particular individual education plan. So a lot of times it's a quick glance, it's a skim read, and that's probably it for the rest of the year. The reality is, as a high school teacher, in my case, I would see probably 200 students in my class per day. And I struggled on many occasions to remember their names, let alone remember everything about them. Some of these individual education plans can be up to 15, 20 pages long. And of course, kids have got a variety of things, whether it's ADHD or whether it's dyslexia or whether it's Asperger's or whatever symptoms or problems that actually exist. It is not humanly possible to remember everything. And so if you assume that the teacher is going to remember exactly what goes on at your house, your circumstances and so on, it's just not going to happen. Everyone also needs to be aware that teachers themselves are humans. Despite the fact they have to front up and they cop a fair bit from administration, sometimes the teachers are bullied more than the kids. Most of them generally have the kids' well-being at heart. But you must remember also, teachers have medical issues. A lot of them have financial issues. Some of them have dying parents. Some of them have dying children. Some of them have kids of their own going through problems being bullied at school. There's all sorts of things going on, and people sometimes forget that. So despite all of that, and then trying to actually remember each child and remember what their special requirements are, most of the time, most of the classes I had were 30 kids, unless they're upper school, but 30 kids, and of course everyone doesn't just sit down and listen. And you've got kids misbehaving. They will forget things, or it might be, oh, they can't get Wi-Fi, or they can't do this or can't do that. Can I use a red pen, a black pen? Can I go to the toilet? And so on and so forth. Also, for example, people assume that the teacher, if they're teaching social studies, well, they might be a music teacher. If they're teaching English, they might be a humanities teacher. I've had to teach economics, science, English, geography, mathematics, cooking, phys ed, outdoor ed. I've taught all of those sorts of things. So don't assume that your teacher is a specialist of those areas. So the experts are the kids and the teachers. And in reality, if that's your child, what you need to do is you actually need to sit down with them, not tell them, you need to listen. You need to actually just have a discussion with them, say what's going on, and of course, it must be a safe environment where they actually will share with you. But the reality is, what you think takes place isn't necessarily the case.